I'm standing right next to one of the most unique vehicles we've ever had over at Allcarnews, and for a lot of reasons. This is the 2026 Polestar 4, and I'm sure you all know Polestar is a pretty unique brand combining Volvo and its parent company Geely's technologies all into kind of one unique performance electric focused brand here. And this particular vehicle has been making headlines for not having a rear window whatsoever. And it's also a pretty polarizing styling language here, and not in a bad way whatsoever. But this car has genuinely taken me a true week to really get used to it. It's been such a unique and different experience compared to every electric vehicle. It actually has reminded me that not all EVs drive the same at all. This is a really unique driving experience, a unique looking experience for sure, and definitely something you should consider if you're looking for an electric SUV in this class, because as of filming right now, Polestar has some pretty wild incentives on these vehicles. I'm talking up to 10, even 20 grand off of the MSRP price here. So even though this one is like $71,000 as configured right here, you can get it for 60 grand or cheaper, depending on what vehicle you're trading in. So despite all that stuff, we're gonna take you on a full in-depth tour, review, and look at all the crazy unique things that make this vehicle a Polestar and why it's such a special vehicle to have in the United States market right now. Let's go dive in. So what do we have powering this Polestar 4? Well, under the front hood over here, well, we're gonna find actually a front storage area, which is actually quite nice and usable, but obviously nothing really engine-wise under the hood. This is a pretty unique vehicle in the sense that all of Polestar's vehicles are on a totally different platform, and that's because of its unique position within the Geely group, its parent company. So this is riding on the SEA2 architecture, the Scalable Electrical Architecture 2, and it actually shares it with one other vehicle we currently still get in the United States, the Volvo EX30, but you're not gonna find any kind of similarities between that vehicle because this is just a totally different experience. That just shows the scalability of said platform. And this one is quite potent. You can get the Polestar 4 in a single motor rear wheel drive variant or this dual motor all wheel drive variant that makes 544 horsepower and around 506 pound-feet of torque. Now, how they did it in this one is it's split pretty much evenly front and rear electric motor, so they're both pretty much making around the same power output there. And this overall experience is very, very Polestar. We have a unique adaptive damper setup on this one as well, and how the chassis tuning and stiffness is all reminds me of almost a little bit of a larger Polestar 2, but of course that vehicle is on a totally different architecture. Now, we have around 100 kilowatt hour battery pack on this particular vehicle, though only around 94 kilowatt hours of said battery pack is actually usable to you as a driver. The rest is sort of a buffer area there. And in this particular one, we're only getting EPA rated around 280 miles of range, which isn't super great. This is only a 400 volt architecture system, so we'll talk about charging in just a second here, but this thing is facing some really steep competition in its class right now. Things like the Tesla Model Y is a staple in the American market, but it's also going to be facing some steep competition from some internal competition, such as the incoming Volvo EX60, which is offering more power, an 800 volt electrical architecture, and honestly more features for around the same-ish price, as well as the BMW iX3 and Mercedes GLC EQ. Heck, even the Audi Q6. This has a lot of competitors in this class right now, so Polestars really have to stand out in a lot of areas, but right now the range particularly isn't one of those areas for me. The rest of the stuff though is pretty unique, so let's go dive into the other cool things of this vehicle. Now, in terms of charging performance, you're gonna find your charge port door on the rear driver's side area over here. It is a motorized style unit as well, so it will open and close for you pretty quickly, and it will close if you leave off in the vehicle and get in and you forget to close it automatically, which is nice. Now, the issues of it only being a 400 volt system, I mean, it's not really an issue. It can charge up to 200 kilowatts in DC fast charging. That's actually pretty good for around a 400 volt architecture, but keep in mind, a lot of the competition is coming in hot this year with like 400 kilowatt DC fast charging on those 800 volt systems. So Yeah, you can't do that everywhere just yet, but we're getting really close to that infrastructure in the US. And this Polestar 4 also does not just yet come with a Tesla-style NACS port as standard, which a lot of the competitors are coming in with in the US market. We still have the CCS charger here. Yes, you can get an adapter and charge on those NACS-only stations if you do need to, but again, you're not going to get the highest speeds out of all of its competitors. Now, we also do get around 11 kilowatt AC level 2 charging, which is actually pretty good. So at home, that's a good amount of speed you're going to be getting to just charge it overnight. I think that's totally fine just there. Now, we're big fans of Polestar here at Allcarnews. The Polestar 2 performance variant that we had was really fun to drive around, and this Polestar 4 is no exception. But what also I love about Polestar is their design language, and whoever designed this thing really did honestly an amazing job. Sure, they've managed to get that perfect shape for a 0.26 drag coefficient, but it looks like nothing else on the road. I just had a Corvette last week we were testing, and I've gotten almost as many looks in this thing as that vehicle because no one sees these on the road just yet. They're so polarizing looking in honestly a lot of cool, unique ways. The Polestar design language up front is pretty uniform throughout the brand. We have this kind of split, almost derived from the Volvo Thor's hammer design headlight shape here. Really bright and distinctive daytime running lights up front. We have really bright headlights as well with turning ability there. And you can even make it fully body colored all around as a package. This one has the split tone, so we have the black lower body section over the white top. You can have it the way you want though, which is great. This one's getting quite a lot of sensor suites around it. I believe we have like 11 cameras, a mid-range radar as well, and of course all of the cameras in the rear so you can see out of the Polestar 4. And we have some venting and cooling up front over here. On the side profile, we have these really slimly integrated side cameras that also are hiding your side reflectors. I think that's a really creative design choice for the US market. We do need those here. And another cool thing Polestar does that's very unique to the brand is their side mirrors. They are frameless in their design. They have like two or three cameras on each of them, which is pretty crazy. And they move in a very unique way. They have a lot of cool capabilities that we'll talk about in the interior. But the other big part about this vehicle is that it's a crossover coupe in that sense. So we have that sloping rear roofline in the back over there. Obviously no rear window in this particular one, as it is a sort of unique approach to this vehicle. And of course there is that wagon variant that I mentioned coming with a rear window if you want. I think the rear design is absolutely awesome. It just looks so sleek and modern and different. No one is doing anything like that. We have a massive light bar back there. Now joining me on the side of the Polestar 4, we have these, I think, in my opinion, the best looking wheels you can actually get on this vehicle right now. You have a few different choices depending on your trim level and style you want. These are the 21-inch forged V-spoke wheels. They look awesome. They have this machined, really brightly polished finish on the exterior and this kind of glossy black interior finish. I think it looks quite great. And these Primacy Michelin tires are pretty good. They're generally pretty quiet, I would say, in most cases. They have a little bit of some loudness in the highways, I've noticed over the course of our week in testing. But overall, they're really big. You can get smaller wheels as well. And if you go for the performance variant, you have a unique wheel and brake combination with those gold calipers. And we have a 3-stage adaptive ZF designed damper on this vehicle, which is amazing. It really is that Polestar unique driving experience thanks to this whole suspension and chassis setup. They tuned these cars to be precise but also really comfortable and quiet. They did a great job there, and we'll talk about that more in the driving impressions. Now before we just hop in straight into the cargo space, we got to talk about this whole situation just for a second here, because up front, up top here is your camera system for your rear digital mirror, which you're going to really heavily rely on. But I'm happy to say it's worked flawlessly the whole week of our test. Had no issues for starters. And you know, if you're someone that's not used to these systems, it may take about like a week or two to get used to with your eyes, and honestly it's totally fine. But I've been driving with vehicles obviously for the past few years that have been using these camera systems that have the option of using it, and now that I've had the opportunity to test them for quite some time, I don't honestly ever want to go back. They're really much better than a regular mirror I've noticed in person. And this one's really cool. It actually has the ability to tilt digitally the mirror when you're making a turn, so it actually shows you more of either lane, either left or right. And it actually still works when you open this trunk area over here. So we'll pop open our trunk, we can press the button right here, or you can kind of kick to activate it as well. This one has the power soft close trunk feature here. And you know, even with this being a sort of like SUV coupe or sportback style design, you have quite a lot of cargo space back here. It's a pretty wide, large opening. The load floor isn't particularly low or high. It's kind of in between, but we have this nice metal scuff plate here, and you actually are getting a little bit of extra storage under the floor panel over here, which is really quite great. We have some side storage on the left hand. The right hand side, we have a speaker built in for our Harman Kardon audio system here. And of course, you're going to notice you can't even see into the rear of the vehicle whatsoever. This whole space back here is around a little over 18 cubic feet of cargo space, but of course you could still fold down those rear seats to unlock around 54 cubic feet of cargo space. If you were to take down this little panel here, I'm going to do so right now, just pop it out. This is the panel that is in the back of the seats, actually. It's the same kind of unique woven fabric we'll have a look at in the interior here. And this allows you to fold those seats down and get way more of a wider access point to the rear seats area over there. But you can kind of see the ambient light strip back there that reflects onto the seats, which is pretty cool. Overall, I really don't have an issue with this. And as I mentioned, there is that wagon variant that is coming quite soon that will help to alleviate some of those potential fears of not having a actual rear mirror here. But again, over the course of the week, if you're someone who can get used to this kind of camera system, has experienced it already, there's really no issue here whatsoever. Okay, everyone, before we go hop inside of the Polestar 4, we're going to check out our key fob situation here. Now, you don't have to have this key fob. You can also use, I believe, a digital phone as your key as well. Now, of course, since we don't have a rear window in the Polestar 4, we get a lot of rear seat space. Now, popping open this rear door, you're going to notice it is a pretty wide door opening, not a full 90-degree angle, but you're also going to notice this is a frameless door over here. So all four doors in the Polestar 4 are frameless, and for having a frameless door, it's a pretty solid thunk. Now, this interior is pretty crazy, actually. So we don't have leather in this particular one. You can option leather. This is a full bio kind of recycled based interior design. So we have this kind of unique textured knit fabric design on the door panels, ambient light strip, same kind of soft touch materials down here, nice window switch, door release as well. And we have these interesting kind of square shaped Harman Kardon speakers as well in this cabin. Pretty sizable door cubbies, really cool, interesting design elements in here. And you can check out on our floor material over here. It's 100%, I believe, recycled carpet in this particular one. We have those aluminum side sill plates. Now, hopping inside the Polestar 4, pretty easy process, actually. And let's close up our door. Immediately, you're going to notice the ambient lighting on the door panel over here, as well as on the front of it. And this is a huge rear seat. I mean, like, really impressive amount of space back here. Foot space is okay. You can see there's some ambient lighting down there as well. Legroom is massive, and we have some storage nuts behind both the front driver and passenger seats, which is great. We're also getting our air vents on the side over here, which is a nice little touch. And of course, this massive panoramic glass roof. Now, you can get an optional electrochromatic version. This is just always completely transparent. So if you want that option, you can option that in if you would like. Seats themselves are huge. I mean, like, really huge. You have giant seat bottom sections as well. And the seats themselves are pretty well sculpted. Again, this is this bio-attributed microtech material in here. It's fossil-free, very vegan-based material in this cabin. Again, you can get leather if you would like, or a textile. I would either go for the textile or the leather. I'm not the biggest fan of this particular material. So I fold down this center armrest over here. It is not your typical armrest. We have this really nice kind of stitching in the center over here, and it looks like this should open, but it doesn't. You do get a little storage tray over here, but we do get controls to recline our rear seats. So you can see right here, we have a control to recline the seats. The passenger also gets that. And check out, you can literally move the whole entire seat back up and down, power adjustment in the rear seats. And that's largely thanks to, not having that rear window. You have all the space back here to kind of lay back and get a little more seat space back here. It really is quite cool. You do have a little bit of that battery hump situation, so my legs are a little bit high, but generally, since I have that reclining ability, it's not too bad. We also are getting our own little secondary screen back here. And it is a small little display. We have 2 air vents above it, which is nice, and 2 USB-C ports. One of them, I believe, is 60-watt USB-C, which is pretty nice. And this little display really is just meant to control our climate, but it has a few other functions in here. So you can see I can actually turn on the interior illumination in here. There's even a settings panel over here for our display brightness, and you can auto dim it. And you can see what tracks you're playing with your music. You can go to like the cue of the music as well, adjust the volume, forward, track, verse. Seat controls here. This is seat heating, not memory, but we do have seat heating adjustments there, and we can control that recline function from this little display. And the view from the backs of these seats are also pretty crazy. You can see the design right here. It's really unique here. Now hopping up front over here, same process with our electronic door handles right here. Again, same frameless window design. And again, on this front door panel, we have that exact same soft touch material, a much larger storage cubby on the bottom section over here. Again, pretty nice solid door thunk for having a frameless door. Really do like that, actually. So the quality in this vehicle overall has been really impressive over the course of this week. And check out this pretty crazy cabin we have in the Polestar 4. So let's first start with our driver zone right in front of us over here. So I am a huge fan of this steering wheel. It's really, really nice, actually. Holding it's really great. You have a lot of great touch points on the steering wheel. Around it is a lot of crazy stuff here. So we have driver monitoring here, as well as over here. This is something you typically see in like the Chinese markets, actually. So again, Chinese kind of focused vehicle, 96% parts content from there. You have a lot of ambient lighting all around you, like I mentioned, and at night it really shines through. Really impressive. We'll get to that in just a second here, but now you can get a little bit of a cool sense of how these buttons on the steering wheel work, because it's actually pretty crazy. So on the right hand side over here, we have a few different controls. We can control our voice assistant, or just say, hey Google. So you have 2 different ways to do that. And you can use these displays buttons over here to control our digital cluster. So here, if I press this, we can change it from a map view. We can change it to this kind of display view over here, which kind of shows you all the cars around you as you're driving. And we have this more cleaner view right here. Now, if I press this button, it's going to open up a whole menu. So I could actually go into this menu here and adjust my steering wheel, my mirrors, my heads-up display adjustment, all from this menu here. So we have our pilot assist, or kind of, adaptive cruise control systems over here, and this is how you can adjust your distance. But these buttons also become a quick access for your regen, so it can adjust regen, so 1, 2, or off, or you can have it just coast. And this is your performance mode here. So if I press this, it's performance mode on or off. Otherwise, these become adjustments for your pilot assist controls, or your radar adaptive cruise control. So that's something you definitely would have to get used to. And a stock over here for our windshield wipers. I like when you rotate that, it brings up a menu over here, you can see. And you have a lot of adjustments here, since you don't have that rear view, or you don't have that rear window at all. So you can adjust the height of this. You can turn on the automatic function, so it'll automatically tilt down for reverse, for example, digitally, or it'll automatically tilt left or right when I put the blinker on. So if I put my blinker on right there, you can see the camera actually tilts to give you a better view of either side around me, behind me, which is pretty cool of a feature, I think, actually. We do have normal window controls here, which are great. Lock, unlock over here, a normal release for our door. That's all pretty fine, but the whole center console is completely devoid of buttons. That's a Polestar thing, but this is a really spacious interior. I have so much room in here to really just stretch out. It feels like a significantly larger vehicle than the Polestar 2's cabin, and you can see that already from this center console space over here. It's very well trimmed. The quality in here is actually fantastic. Everything's very, very solid. It feels like a proper European built vehicle in that sense. But you get this huge center console space over here that Polestar sells a few different accessories, actually, such as like a little trash bin or additional cup holders you can put down here because it's that tall. And on this upper portion, which is all ambient lit at night, which is pretty cool, is this aluminum trim, which feels quite nice and cool to the touch. And opening that up reveals 2 pretty large cup holders, actually. And we have a little volume knob here, which is also illuminated at night. It's a nice tactile clicking sound to it as well. We do have a wireless charging mat over here, which is not good. It overheats my phone and never really charges it, so I don't use it. You're gonna notice all the air vents in the vehicle, from this giant center one to the ones on the dash, don't have any physical control. So we have to control that from this giant screen. So we'll get to that in a second. We have this large armrest in the center here. Honestly, this could be a little bit squishier. It's actually quite on the hard end, but very solid feeling, which is nice. Opening this up reveals a felt-aligned center console storage space with 2 USB-C ports. And thankfully, we do still have a glove box, though you do have to open it from the display. And it is huge and completely felt-aligned, so I do like to see that, which is pretty nice. And now, since everything is pretty much controlled from this display, we got to talk about it. This bottom bar will always be for your climate controls in the center portion, as you can see, so you can quickly adjust your temperature just like that, or open up the full climate menu over here as well, so you can adjust things like your fan speed in here. And now, if you want to go and adjust all of your vents, you really do have to go into this kind of display over here and then go into that. And, you know, let's see if I can do it right now. If I do up here, yeah, you have to actually turn on that zone, then you can adjust your vent direction speed. It's kind of a little bit of a mess, I'm not gonna lie here. It's a little clunky to use while driving, but that's because you really just got to put it in auto and got to let the car do it at the end of the day. But I will note, as a driver, kind of reaching this stuff is a little bit far. It's quite far away. I wish they could kind of move that closer to me. I think that would be really nice. Now, also in the screen, this is your kind of home menu view over here. You can have Google Maps is always going to be here just like this. You can make it full screen by swiping that over there, or you can kind of have this split widget view over here. But you also have a full app drawer menu over here. This is how you can access things like your full trip meter, and it never really allows you to go in a full display, which I think is a little silly. But we do have this little Polestar icon here, which brings up a whole other menu. So you have this favorite bar over here that you can customize. So right now I have things like lane keep assist, or sport mode, or performance mode, one pedal drive settings, light controls, all that stuff. But of course I can access a lot of that from these little menus over here. But you also have another kind of quick access page just to bring you to a lot more stuff. So if I press adjustments, it brings me to like that steering wheel, mirror, and head-up display adjustments that I can access from this display, for example. But I can also adjust the seats from here if I don't want to use the physical dials we have over here. And then you have your ambient light controls over here, which Polestar, this is actually really cool. Polestar does it in planets. So we have our planets, the sun, Earth, and that is your ambient light color. And I believe if I switch them like this, you can kind of swipe through them. You have a little Polestar 6 flying through. I found myself a little bit this week of just getting lost in these menus if I wanted to go and change like my drive modes. It takes a little bit of some time to go into here because, you know, modes is not your drive modes here. If you want to go to those, you got to go to drive, and this is where you can then adjust your suspension, which, you know, the graphics in here are, I think, really fantastic. It's just a lot of menu hopping to go through. And the voice assistant doesn't do any of this stuff. So if I say, hey, Google, switch to performance mode,
sorry, I don't understand.
It doesn't have access to any of the stuff in the system. So if you're going to put everything in the screen, Polestar, I really wish the Google Assistant, for example, would be able to kind of access some of these menus to use it by voice, because sometimes making these physical adjustments on the screen is just a little bit clunky. I love the graphical displays in here are fantastic. It's really crystal clear. They really do everything very well in that regard. But accessing this for a first-time user is definitely a big learning curve, I would say. And Apple CarPlay actually works well. This is the largest Apple CarPlay I think I have ever seen in any vehicle. I could be wrong, there may be a larger one, but it is huge. It takes up this entire display. I really haven't had any issues of the wireless connectivity with that this week whatsoever. And we have a fantastic 360 camera system. This vehicle has like 11 cameras around you, and that's a great thing because this car has no rear window once again. But we have a pretty good 360 view, as you can see right here, around the vehicle, which I would expect to see. Otherwise, in this cabin, we don't actually have too much other stuff. We have some more ambient lighting up here. We do have a few buttons and switches for our lights and things. But I will shut up now and let's go take this thing out on the drive and see how it handles out on the road. Even in range mode, the power of this thing is just crazy. It's a silent beast as well. It is crazy quiet in here, actually. And on top of that, this fantastic suspension system really does make overall driving on pretty much any surface a total and utter joy. These turn indicators are pretty crazy. They play on either side of the vehicle depending on either if you're going left or right, and I believe it's the sound of like a Swedish branch breaking, I was told. So that's a pretty interesting choice there, but I think it sounds cool. Steering feel and feedback and chassis tuning, this is really where the whole Polestar experience comes into play here. It reminds me a lot in the driving experience of a larger Polestar 2. I remember driving that vehicle not too long ago, around a year or two, in the Polestar 2 dual motor performance, and while this is on a totally different platform, that Polestar driving characteristic is still here. You have a pretty quick and responsive front end. No real terms of actual steering feel, but the response is pretty nuts, and how the vehicle overall kind of responds to those steering inputs is really great. You have incredibly balanced and neutral chassis tuning here. Going around a corner, you always really feel pretty secure and flat. You never really feel like the car is going to lose control, and you know, that's something that you may want to actually kind of tune into a little bit of these Polestars. They are meant to be a little bit more dynamic and precision in your driving experience than a typical EV, and you can definitely do that in this vehicle. If I go over to my drive mode settings here, you know, stiffen up the suspension and even, you know, put it into the sport electronic stability control and performance mode, you can almost power slide this thing a little bit. It does a little bit of a, you know, oversteer, understeer kind of situation depending on how you're driving it. You know, you have dual motor all-wheel drive. It's not really gonna let the tail loose in all scenarios, but I almost want to say if they were to kind of make this rear motor a little bit more powerful, I think this could be a much more, even more fun vehicle. But we have to remember, this is a sort of family sporty crossover coupe thing at the end of the day, so go for the performance variant if you want a little bit more fun out of this. But it is a more spirited driving experience at the end of the day, which is pretty cool. Steering feedback, you have 3 levels, like I mentioned: light, standard, and firm. I honestly can't really tell the difference between it unless you really are driving the vehicle a lot. Then you'll be able to tell. This is kind of the same situation in a lot of Volvos. They have like firm or just regular steering feels, and it's kind of difficult to tell. I guess right now I can feel it as a little bit lighter. If standard kind of has an in-between sense, and firm. Same thing goes with the suspension feel over here. So standard, nimble, and firm, it shows you the amount of resistance that's going on with those adaptive ZF designed dampers here, which are amazing. There is a true difference between standard and firm, actually, and I can feel it in my butt. and just overall, the stiffness and chassis of this Polestar 4, it does actually make quite a difference in the feel. So firm, it's gonna feel a bit bumpy, and firm in here. Whoa. Yeah, performance mode, this thing scurries off in a hurry. It is quick, really, really quick, actually. But you know, it's still a heavy vehicle, so overall acceleration in these EVs, every EV is quick these days. They really have to differentiate themselves with their design, the user experience, the inside, and the driving experience as well. This definitely is a different driving experience than other EVs. Coming to a stop here, again, 2 levels of regenerative braking. Now, an interesting thing here is that there's 2 levels, and then there's just completely off. This Polestar 4 has the magic ability, which I actually quite like in EVs, to coast like you are being blown by the wind. It is a remarkable coasting EV. We'll get to that when we get onto the highway there in just a second, but I do wish there was another drive mode. We only have range and performance, and you know, range just dampens out the initial throttle tuning up to a certain point, but the deeper you press, it just turns almost into performance mode. I wish there was like a, you know, pure just range mode and maybe like a standard mode in between the two. I think that would have been really nice to see. We'll pop it into performance mode as we head out onto the highway here. See that insane acceleration here. This thing scurries along. I always like to think Polestars are almost like an in-between of Audi and BMW, or honestly, if Volvos were more sharper, closer leaning towards a more BMW style experience. They really do have that impressive speed carrying ability and maintaining an incredible quiet pod on the inside with also some good driving inputs. And that quiet pod experience really is felt on the highway. It is really quiet on here. The underfloor NVH is top top tier. Speaking of cool, there's a halogen headlight XC90 to the left of us right there. You don't see those too much anymore. Those are pretty old. Enough nerding out there for a second. This has been a really great experience, and on the highway, it's great. We have our pilot assist system here, so all I have to do is press that once on the left-hand side of the steering wheel. You can see our digital cluster turns yellow to let us know we're in our pilot assist system there, and it does do steering assist, which is great, as well as full adaptive cruise control. So this is a really good system. It's just great, in line what we expect from like the Volvo and Polestar vehicles right now. No hands-free mode on this particular one. There also is some kind of new feature that I'll try to overlay for you or test for you guys in this video with Google Maps. So Google Maps is now using the camera of the Polestar to detect lane lines and suggest the lane changes for you. This is something you typically see with built-in systems like Super Cruise or those kinds of systems there, where it's a little bit more advanced. So that's kind of cool that we're doing that now on a vehicle that doesn't have full hands-off, eyes-up style driving situations. Now, you're going to be surprised that I didn't really talk about not having a rear mirror here, a rear window, but it's not an issue in this vehicle at all. I think that, oh, it is doing the auto lane change right now. Oh, lane change canceled. Keep hands on steering wheel. So let's try that again. So you do have to have your hands on the steering wheel. Auto lane changing. Oh, there you go. So it doesn't have to be in Google Maps. The rear digital camera system has been completely flawless this week. I haven't had any glitches or issues, and some other interesting features on here. So I'm going to turn on we'll take it out of performance mode, and we'll pop on coasting. Please just have a look at this right here. We're going downhill, yeah, but I've been in EVs in their alleged like coasting mode, which still has some regen in it, and I started slowing down on this pretty steep, well, not steep, but it's good enough grade going downhill. And just look at this thing. It just goes. If you can, learn how to drive this Polestar 4 and get used to this driving experience of it, you can also get pretty efficient numbers out of it when driving in the proper style. It definitely has potential. I hope they pull a Polestar 3 and EX90 where, they really overhaul this platform a year or two into its initial production run. It's not a bad car. I actually think it's really good. I like it more than a Model Y in terms of the quality of the build, the driving experience, the ambient light experience. It's all really, really great there, and it definitely has potential. Just little minor improvements here and there that I would like to see made. Thank you guys for joining us on yet another full tour and review over at Allcarnews, and stay tuned for more coming soon. Cheers.